All right. Good morning, everyone. I am so excited to be here this morning for our morning marketing with Colleen and friends. I'm just going to check here. Yep, we are live. This is exciting. So welcome, welcome. I am super excited today to be joined by Shelly Jenkins, the owner of Prior Tire. So yay.
Thank
You know what I
you.
need to get? I need to get some sound effects, like that applause in the background, so it sounds like there's this massive applause going on for you.
That would be nice. That would be much appreciated.
I know, right? Right. Okay, cool. So Shelly, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about your store. Oh, I did not put that in the little get started message that I sent to you. So before we get to those questions, tell us about you. Tell us about your store. How did you get started in consignment?
Sure. Well, I have been in consignment for 15 years. My store is celebrating the 20th year this year, and I bought it from a friend of mine. And I really had just kind of come back from college, and I was going to move back to Orlando where I did an intern, and my dad was sick, and I was afraid to leave town. And I was just kind of floundering. I was, you know, 24 and lost really. And a really good friend of mine that probably knew me better than anybody, she had this store, and she had other businesses as well, but she needed help one week. She said, come work for me for a week. I need help. Do you mind? I wasn't doing anything. I said, sure. And she said, I'll take you to dinner on Saturday. So we closed up Saturday, went to dinner, and she asked how I liked it. And I said, oh, it was so much fun. She's like, do you want to buy it? And I was like, I don't know. You know, I was 24. I didn't know. So anyway, she really knew what she was doing because she knew me better than anybody, and kind of helped me get started and set me up. And that was 15 years ago. So we're in Cleveland, in Ottawa. So I have three locations. I have two in Cleveland. I have a formal store in the same building, same plaza as my main store. And it's been there 3 years for the formal store. And my main store, of course, has been there 20 years. I've owned it for 15. And then about 5 years ago, we opened up a second location about 20 miles south of here in Ottawa, Tennessee. I know that's a mouthful, but Ottawa. And we're all right outside. We're all like 10 to 20 minutes outside Chattanooga. And most people have heard of Chattanooga. But women's, juniors, one store does men's and formal wear. No children, no furniture. Not yet, anyway.
Not yet, but maybe coming soon, right? So that is
Yes.
awesome. I think that is one of my favorite how'd you get started. I love that your friend is like, hey, come hang out with me for a week. And then like a week later she's like, do you want to buy my store? That's a really good exit strategy there. Find your bestie, invite her to hang
Oh,
out
yeah.
with you for a week, and then offer to sell her your business.
Yeah, she knew what she's doing. I had no clue. I was just bebopping around and, just having a good old time. And the whole time she was lying. She'd already called the bank and, it was like, we need to call Anna at the bank. She's already got the paperwork. She was ready for me.
Oh
She
my
knew.
God. She saw you coming, girlfriend. She saw
She
you
did,
coming.
absolutely.
All right, so I want to just say good morning to Sherry and Jennifer and Tiffany. Let's see who else. Leslie, hi, good morning. Oh, good morning, Anita. Nice to see you, Anita. And let's see, we've got a couple other people watching. Can't quite see who those names are, but anyway, good morning, everyone, and welcome. So today we're going to talk about branding, and I thought it would be really fun to interview and go over Shelly's branding report. So, Shelly, I have a couple questions to get started so that other people watching can understand a little bit more. So what was going on in your business 15 years? What was going on in your business that made you decide you needed some branding?
Well, like I said, we were getting ready to celebrate the big 20th year for the store, my 15th year, and I just had this lost feeling in my store. Um, when I bought the store, I kept things the same and did things the same because I didn't want to mess anything up. And then I got comfortable with it and made the changes of my own. And then as I grew, you get employees and they're all just uber smart and uber creative, and you pull their ideas in, and then with that second location, and it was running on its own because I've been very fortunate with a great manager and great employees, and so I kind of walk in one day at both stores though, and I'm like, is this me? They both kind of start taking their own personality. Like I just felt kind of all over the place with it, and I wanted to hone it in. I wanted it to feel like, if this is my 15th year and the store's 20th year, so my 10-year plan, I wanted it to feel like it was me. Because in 10 years I have this dream of retiring. I know that's funny, but in my mind right now, I'm still naive enough to think in 10 years, I'm going to do that. And so if this is my big hurrah for 10 years, I want it to speak who I am and our store philosophy, and I want all my stores the same. I want my customers the same. I don't want to hear, well, when so and so's here, it feels this way in your store. When so and so's here, it feels this way. So I just felt like we needed an identity, and that's where I felt lost. And one thing you pointed out to me was when I was showing you my logo, which was extremely outdated, but I was thinking about name change. So there we go. That's the one right there.
Okay. I think that was the first thing you said to me when you handed me your card. Is like, oh my God, don't look at my logo. So of course that was the first thing we had to look at.
That was circa 2004, I think, right there. But I had contemplated a name change. I felt like the 20th year was the time to do it because we were spending a lot of money to advertise and update websites and do everything. So I thought, well, if I'm going to do a name change, now's the time. And you had said, Shelly, I think when you do your branding and you really hone in on what your store is and who it is, and you do an updated logo, you said, I think you'll fall in love with your store again. And then that was my aha moment. I was like, I have fallen out of love with my store. And that was my problem. So that's what was going on with me.
So were you surprised at some of the branding questions as we were going through the interview? Because the branding process is we start out with about a 2.5 to 3 hour interview process, which Shelly and I completed a couple weeks ago. And were you surprised at some of the questions that were asked?
Oh yeah, very surprised. And I'd asked you, I was like, okay, so what do I need to do? Do I need to study? Like I was ready to study and have numbers and my demographic and Bradley County is this and Hamilton County is that and this is who comes in and you're like, nope, I'm just going to ask you some questions. It's a lot of fun, and it was. But yeah, I was very surprised. Can I say what a question? Like an example?
Absolutely. Share a couple questions.
Okay, so also there's so many questions, and I really wanted to go home at night and call Colleen when I couldn't sleep that night because I thought, why did I say that? The biggest one was when you asked if your store was a car, what kind of car would it be? And I said, for I don't know reasons, minivan. And I don't know why I said that. And my stepdaughter was talking about getting a minivan. I don't know if it was in my head, but I think I explained it well, afterwards. But all the girls at work, I'm worrying over it. And my manager, who's usually the person that says, don't worry, you did great, and builds you up. She said, you mean you called us a loser cruiser? And I wanted to call you so many times and say, I don't mean it. So, but it was questions like that I didn't imagine getting, so I wasn't prepared, and it's just whatever was on top of my head that day I kind of said. But I think too, I guess that's why you do so many questions, to where you pull out everything else around it and the why and stuff. So I think it came together really nice. But that one stumped me right there. That was the question the answer that haunted me anyway.
And in your defense, when we re-asked the question a couple different ways, you did actually talk about BMW and Mazda and how the Mazda was very much like the BMWs, but you got more for your money. You just didn't have the brand. And that was one thing that came out loud and clear in Shelly's branding, is that she knows her luxury brands. She knows them very well, and she can wow her audience with them, but she's not all about the luxury brand. She's not about the label. She's more about the fit and what looks good. Her brand is more about that. So let's dig in. Shelly has agreed to let us share her branding report, and I thought it would be kind of fun to go over that together. So I'm going to do a screen share here. And so So there's always a little intro paragraph here, and the branding is done. This is actually like a very precise thing that we do when we do the branding. So this isn't just some randomity. I've had some training in branding, and there's actually a bit of a science that goes behind it. So there are a certain set number of brand archetypes, and every company, every brand fits into one brand archetype. But most companies, just like most people, when you're doing a personality test, like most people have a dominant archetype or a dominant personality, and then subcategories, sort of underlying. And that's what we really pull out in the branding that I do. So with Prior Tire, with her brand, Prior Tire, the brand is actually really a breath of fresh air, and her brand it's very friendly and it's very sincere and acts with the utmost of integrity. Her brand is really trustworthy and reliable, and her brand is really like that best friend that you come in and you can just pour your heart out to the best friend. Prior Tire is a brand that's fun, so it actually will take mundane, boring tasks and make them fun. And the brand actually reminds its customers to hey, you don't have to be so serious. Yes, life can be hard and complicated, but we don't have to be serious about it. We all have an inner child. Let's let that inner child come out and play. And it's all, everything at the end of the day, everything is going to be all right. The brand Prior Tire is it's very turned off by people who believe in status and entitlement. And although the brand is very welcoming and happy to have those kinds of people come in and shop and consign, but the brand itself is very unpretentious. And there was some mentions of Dolly Parton in our interviews. And so this brand Prior Tire likes a little bit of glimmer, a little bit of shimmer, but really would prefer to leave all that glam to Dolly Parton and be a little bit more simplistic in how it presents itself. The Prior Tire brand is actually very relatable to everyone, very approachable. And so what we mean by that, because I know that was a question that you had, Shelly, what we mean by that is to be relatable is where people feel very comfortable around you. People feel very comfortable around your brand. It's not like, oh, that's very ostentatious, or I'm not dressed appropriately to go into that store or to interact with that brand, or I feel kind of not very confident, or, that brand is so up there. So your brand is very relatable, and it's very open to a lot of different people and a lot of different personalities. So good morning, Melissa and Tracy and Lisa. Good morning. All right, so then we go into the personality attributes, and these are, again, for the Prior Tire brand. So as we talked about, we talk about relatable, we talk about being very unsophisticated. So this is a brand that's just more simple, more down to earth. It's very encouraging, very reliable, they do what they say, and they're good-natured, just down-home, good-natured brand, very honest, very trustworthy, very happy brand. Not over the top, positive, but just a very happy, very personable, fun and bubbly, very, very thoughtful brand. And so when we look at the personalities of the brand, again, we get the happy and cheerful and friendly, and that the brand itself desires to just be more simple and effortlessly, and it moves through barriers just kind of it almost doesn't see them. So it's almost like a little bit of naivety comes through and innocence with this brand, because it's like the bumblebee supposedly doesn't know that it can't fly according to the laws of aerodynamics, and yet it flies. And so that's very much the brand of Prior Tire. It doesn't overanalyze. It just is like, yep, we're just going to fly. We're going to go about life and fly. And this brand really seeks to help people feel good about themselves and feel like they're part of an inner circle. So very warm, very welcoming haven. Conversation is happy and friendly. And when you leave, like the brand always leaves people with the feeling that they're beautiful, they're loved, and they belong. So do you have any questions or comments to share, Shelly, or to ask about your personality attributes?
No, I think that really summed it up. And it's funny because you said about the flying, and we do it anyway. We always just have a term around here where we say we roll with it. So we're like, just roll with it, don't let it bother you, just roll with it. But no, I think that's very much so. I shared this with a couple of employees when I first got it, and they were a little worried about being considered unsophisticated. Because they're thinking, oh, we want to get more Louis and this and that and stuff. So, we had to dive into that one a little bit more about it being more, and I'm grateful that you put simple next to it. So that kind of, when I kind of scratched that term off their list for them and replaced it with simple, they didn't feel threatened by that.
Got it. Yes, unsophisticated. You can still sell Louis Vuitton and be unsophisticated. So yes, it's just more simple. It's not the more sophisticated style of carrying yourself. That is definitely not who your brand is. So that's awesome. All right, cool. Let's move on. And we're going to come to brand voice. So your brand voice is, how does your brand talk? What are the characteristics of its speech and its speaking styles? So with Prior Attire, it's very Southern proper and very cheerful, sincere. Their best friend female voices would be comparable to like Drew Barrymore and Julia Roberts and Ellen DeGeneres, and then their best friend male voices are very comparable to Tom Hanks, Matt Dillon, Blake Shelton, John Bon Jovi. Their voice is very gentle but intentional, so very nice but firm, like intentional, and very humble, straightforward, honest, and encouraging but not heavy inspirational. This brand is not going to be a motivational speaker type. And tell me about that, Shelly, because you actually had a comment about that.
Yeah, so someone had said that, well, she nailed that one there on you, because I do believe in being encouraging, and I do believe in little happy sayings, and but I keep it very light, and I can tell somebody, I'm like, oh, that lady over there, she, this happened to her, and they're like, oh, then they want to know the rest of the story. I'm like, oh, I didn't get into all that now, because I didn't want to get, I was encouraging, and I said some good words to the lady and said, I'll be praying for you and this and that, but I didn't want to get into the whole story. So I don't want to, fix people's lives. I just want to give them a little smile to help them a little ease their day, So I thought that was very, very right on.
Perfect, because your brand is the last thing here, lighthearted. It's not heavy. It's not deeply emotional. So shows like A Million Things and the big popular show like This Is Us would not be representative of your brand, like way too heavy on the emotional scale. A great theme song for your brand voice is Tim McGraw's Southern Voice. Again, it's very Southern proper. It's not slang, and it's not like too formal of language, so very what I call Southern proper, and just a great down home feel good song. Really describes the South, which you're definitely all about. Your brand should stay away from formal proper language, and also the opposite end, you don't want to use the Southern slang in your brand voice. And your brand, when it's talking and communicating on paper, you can use emojis and memes, but not cartoonish. You want to stay away from that, because that is just not going to be responsive. Your target audience is not going to be responsive to that. And it's not representative of your brand. Your brand should spotlight very normal, everyday women who've kind of busted out of their small towns. My favorite example of this one is Sarah Blakely. I think she's probably my most favorite example that I use in this situation, because she's very down home, down to earth, and she went on to create this whole company called Spanx. So your brand is very much a champion of others' girls' dreams, as well as the dreamer whose dream is merely to help others. So your brand really champions people who are teachers and financial planners and coaches and not-for-profit organizations. So using wholesome imagery, kind of staying away from outlandish claims and shock values and sexy images and words, that is not representative of your brand. Your brand is more trustworthy, like money back guarantee, for example, and very girlfriend types of language and words like small town, hometown, family life. And your brand is very empowering of others to make their own choices and stressing choice and options in its messaging. So using those kinds of wording is really going to win over your audience. So do you have any other thoughts or questions about brand voice?
No, I love that the Southern Proper was up there. That spoke to me, but especially one thing that I was worried about that I did during this interview was I was trying so hard not to come out like, oh, we're this big upscale resale and and Lux and all this stuff. And I was afraid that I had talked it down too much, but I thought this was perfect. I really enjoyed, and it was easy for me to understand when you put like best friend female voice and the best, and use celebrity examples because I could relate to those people instead of just being words or descriptions. But no, I believe that. Now, like as far as slang, like a little bit of slang, Scott, like we could do a lot of hey y'all, that kind of stuff is still okay. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and I kind of call that Southern proper because y'all is very Southern speak. So yeah, that's totally okay. Very expected anyway. Southern proper, very expected. And I just want to comment that even if you had downplayed your brand based on how the questions are, it would all still come out because we're looking for there's the way we do the questioning, the way I have it set up is we can actually extrapolate what's really going on from what you want to portray. So that's why we ask the questions we do and how we ask them so that we can go, this is like, we can really capture like, this is really who the brand is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the style. So every brand has a style. What's your brand? Is it flashy? Is it like understated? Are you casual? Are you designer? And what sort of influences your brand style? So Prior Attire is very casual, very well put together, but very casual. So they're fashionable, but not glitzy and flashy, and very noticeable, but not like overstated. So again, like not going to stand out in a crowd as being this overstated, glimmery, glitzy person if the brand were a person. It's all about the look more so than the label, although a label thrown in there is hip and trendy and cool, but it's not necessarily about the label. It's how do you look, how do you feel. Very structured style. It's not like loosey-goosey, so it's more about the structured, and you did mention this, the structured kind of Kate Spade bag as opposed to like a big floppy hobo bag. Color and accessories for fun, absolutely. So you're understated, but you like a little pop of color, and very simple. Like simple is more in this kind of brand style. So good morning, Anne and Judy. Hi, Karen and Michelle. Okay, so your brand is, again, leave the bling to Dolly. Your brand is all about what looks good, what fits well, and what's trending, but not too trendy. And then the Prior Attire brand is also really knowledgeable about brands, but again, it's not all about them, but it has a lot of knowledge. And so the Prior Attire brand, if it were a person and it were getting dressed in the morning, it would dress so that it could go from the kindergarten playroom to the client meeting and maybe a PTA meeting in the evening. So very versatile, casual dressing that can go to a lot of places. The brand is actually influenced by an overall look. Again, not labels, and it exudes just as much confidence in a pair of Gap jeans as if it were stepping out in a pair of Gucci pants. So in the environment, the feeling of hospitality is most important. So your brand lives and breathes best in environments full of furnishings that look good, that feel good, they're nice and comfortable, and very approachable. So comfort over style versus style over comfort. So any questions, comments about brand style?
Um, sorry, I was thinking you were asking them for a minute. I do not. I think that nails our customers, especially the comfort and the style. Of course, we try to teach them that it's like you don't have to sacrifice one for the other anymore, and show them that way. Um, as far as brand style, like I guess I have two things. Like when I did my report, and it doesn't really say in here, but like where I feel like warm and inviting, the look and the feel of hospitality and playful. So sometimes I wonder on brand style when I've been like looking over this and how can I put it into use. How do you pick one over the other? Like, or is it when I'm looking at my style? Could I go too far with the playful side to where the warm and inviting doesn't stay there as well, or do you think that's all interlocked with
I think
style?
it's again, it's just kind of how you put it together. But I don't ever see you personally, I don't see you going to that extreme. Like to that extreme would just be, creating big bold colors, and it would be that's more of like this huge playful, over the top playful environment. And I don't think that that's really who you are as an owner. And even though your brand is separate from who you are, there is always a little bit, there's a little bit of the owner in the brand. So I don't think no matter what you did, I don't think you could ever go too far because that's not who you are. Like you're not that extremist of like, oh my gosh, okay, we've gone too far. This is crazy. Like that's not your personality.
We're gonna say the middle of the road. Our style with everything is kind of maybe middle of the road there.
Yes, that's just totally who your brand is, very middle of the road. And again, it goes back to being relatable. So you're relatable. A lot of
Okay.
different personalities are going to relate to you.
Okay. Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
awesome. So let's go on to brand values. So brand values are, what are the principles and standards of your brand? Like what's most important to your brand and what are your brand's core values? So for Prior Tire, very much a sense of community. Also very charitable, neighborly, honest, very simplicity. And you don't just meet expectations, you exceed expectations. Like that came out very, very loud and clear. And again, luxury is nice, but it doesn't make you better than everyone else. That's very important to your brand. Friendly, and very much your brand is very much a hard worker. So no matter what it takes to get the job done, you're going to get it done, and your brand is going to get it done right. And very empowering. Your brand offers lots of choices to its shoppers, lots of choices to its consigners, and that's very empowering. It's not like, hey, come in and this is how we do things and you have to like fit into this slot. Instead, your brand is very empowering to say, hey, we've got some choices. How would you like to consign with us? How would you like to shop with us? Very kind, very thoughtful. Your brand is incredibly thoughtful. If your brand had some theme songs, it could be I'll Be There For You by the Rembrandts, Oath by Cher Lloyd, and then of course I had to go with Bargain Store by Dolly Parton. So if you're watching, if you're a Dolly Parton fan, or even if you're not, if you just want to see what we're talking about, Dolly Parton wrote a song called Bargain Store. I'm sure Shelly probably knew that because she's a big Dolly fan. But I happened to find that, and when I listened to the words, I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect for brand values anyway. So kind of a fun song. Your brand really values meaningful connections with its customers, and it really wants to foster long-term friendships. And I focus on the word friendship because friendships are different than relationships. Like a friendship actually kind of takes that relationship one step further because it's thoughtful, it's caring, and it's okay if your brand is more about relationships. There's nothing wrong with it. It's like every brand is a little bit different. So if you're watching this and you have already done your branding, that you've gone through this with me, you'll notice that how your brand is obviously very different because every brand is different, just like every person is different. So your brand, Prior Attire, is very much about the friendship, and it invests in strategies that foster friendships, not just relationships, because it values a little bit deeper connection. Again, coming back to relatable, wholesome, happy, sincerity over money, but very astute to know that the more it invests in doing strategies and things to create more friendships, the more money it's going to make. And that was something that, Shelly did share with me, is that there are other consignment stores in her areas. There are other retail stores in her areas that people could shop at, but they choose to shop with her because of what we're talking about right here, because of those friendships and those values. So do you have any comments or questions about brand values?
No, I did feel like we do a good job of talking about charitable stuff and a sense of community. And we do a big SPCA adoption event and stuff twice a year. But other than that, we don't do a lot more. We kind of talk more about it, and we're all about it and promoting other people. So I did feel like when you said that, and that was one thing I liked about having the branding report, was that it was kind of like, oh, there's that missing puzzle piece. It's like we kind of knew in the back of our head, but we didn't know how to complete ourselves. So we do feel like we circled that top sense of community and charitable, and that's already on like the top goals to complete for the next, and not even next quarter, it's next month. Like we're putting it into play because we felt that's how I just felt like my brand wasn't complete and all over the place. Like I feel like there was missing puzzles that I found in this branding report that now I can kind of complete everything. So it was funny because the things that I kind of knew that haunted me that I wasn't doing and then probably should, that they came out.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I'm excited to hear more about what you're going to do down the line. I look forward to watching that and seeing cool charity stuff and the community stuff. So if you're just tuning in, I encourage you to go back and watch the first 5 minutes of our show this morning so you can learn a little bit about Shelly and her store Prior Attire and learn about why she decided to go through the branding process. So this is now the brand analysis report, and Shelly has agreed to share it live with all of you today to give you a little insight on the branding process. So definitely go back and watch the first few minutes just so you can kind of learn a little bit about the branding and what's happening here. Okay, brand behavior. So how does your brand act and how does it conduct itself? How does your brand behave? Again, very, very thoughtful. The Prior Attire brand is going to do the right thing and does things right. Again, very friendly, very faithful. It's a very faithful brand to its customers and very genuine. This brand really cares about other people. It's very helpful and it's also very forgiving. This brand goes the extra mile. It's positive, trustworthy, a good listener, and again, lighthearted, not overly emotional. And this brand really believes in doing what's right and leading by example, extremely hospitable, really excellent at creating a comfortable, welcoming environment where people can relax and have fun for a few hours of some shopping therapy. And this brand also is the kind of brand that's going to take the time to get to know people's names, and it genuinely cares about others, not just from this is a good business practice. And again, if your brand is like that, it's totally okay, because there are some brands that are just more about the business practices, and that's totally okay. This is just pertaining to the Prior Attire brand. And this brand is really more involved in its customers' lives. And the thing about that is there is a little more work behind that, because we need to do note cards and we need to do some other personal touches and things that maybe other brands don't have to do. But this brand definitely needs to take some of those personalization steps with handwritten note cards. We've even suggested coffee, tea, water, snack bar, because if this brand were inviting people into its home, which essentially it is when you're coming into the store, that's the kind of environment that this brand sort of creates. And again, this brand really knows luxury and appreciates it, but really prefers the styles of affordable, everyday designers. So, with regards to brand behavior, Shelly, do you have any questions, comments, aha moments?
Yes, I loved this whole list. Cause the hardest thing I think, and even if I could figure out who I was and who my store was and all that, if I could get through all that, then you have to train your employees to get on board and to do everything. So I've actually already um, made little signs with each of these, and it's on one of our lists today to laminate. And we're putting them on our back break room doors because I feel like that was something that I need them to be reminded of every day, including myself, but what our brand behavior is, so that when we walk back out on that floor, are we doing the right thing and doing it right? Are we friendly? Are we faithful? Are we caring about our customers? So I'm definitely using that whole thing all throughout our store and training our employees. So that I just love the whole list.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. That's really cool. All right, cool. So next we come into brand photography and graphics. And this is really important because it takes a lot of the guesswork out when you are creating some marketing or whatever you're doing. You don't have to kind of sit and decide, does this look right? Or if you have multiple people that are working on your marketing for you, everyone is kind of all going to be on the same page. And we do show some examples at the end of the report, but for the brand prior attire, like the best styles of photography and graphics are going to be like real everyday people who look good and look well manicured and put together, but they're not like super high end models. So not the chiseled cheekbones, not the look like they just, not a Heidi Klum. Like that is not going to be, you could be like Heidi Klum on an off day. But really you want to think more of like an Olympic athlete is, they look good, but they're more everyday kind of all-American types of people. But they don't have to have the chiseled body of an athlete, so that's not the perfect example, but in terms of overall, if you're looking for different looks for marketing, it's just going to be like everyday real people, smiling, friendly expressions and environments. Use photography to connect with your audience. So photography is going to be used primarily over hand-drawn graphics and computer-generated graphics. And good morning, Sarah. Good morning, Kate. Thanks for joining us. Kate, you should be writing your book, and maybe you're painting while you're watching right now. All right, you're going to use very light filters, so nothing too dark. That's just not your brand. You can use some fun effects if you want, but not over the top cartoonish, because we did talk about that. And again, action photos to elicit an emotional connection, not just product photos, but not too like heavily emotional, like stay away from like the Kleenex commercial kinds of images. Using photos that show family, helping, community, and again, avoiding cartoon and hand-drawn graphics. So these are the style of fonts that best match and complement your brand style. This is not a complete list by any means. This is just an idea of some of the fonts that would work well with your brand's personality and with your overall brand. Any questions about this, about brand fonts and photography and graphics?
No, once again, it's like the missing pieces of the puzzle because we have started using light filters and kind of trying to get us a little certain look on everything. But it's all the other pieces that I had to kind of make that Instagram feed work. So I enjoy that, and then the whole brand fonts because I use some of those. Those are the ones that I'm drawn to anyway. But then when my staff will do signs, I'm kind of walk out there and I'm like, oh, it looks so different. I've done a sign over here, then they've done a rack, and they've made a very nice little sign, but it just looks different, completely different. So I love the fact that I have something to, once again, help train them so that we can keep the image the same. I think this is stuff that sometimes I knew, but I didn't know how to get it out there and put it on paper and say, this is who we are, and I need everybody else to help us maintain this.
Absolutely. And I think that's, really, really well said. Really well said. Okay, awesome. Good morning, Katie. Katie Clement from Something Blue is joining us. And Nancy. Hi, Nancy. And Mary. Good morning, everyone. Okay, brand colors. Again, this is just a sampling of colors and hues that match the personality and the voice and the values. So the colors represent purity and simplicity with pops of color, like we talked about. So your brand, again, very relatable. So your color palette is going to be more muted and understated, as too many bright colors can actually be off-putting and not as welcoming. Everyone loves the peacock's beautiful bright colors amidst the sea of the robins and the sparrows. And you did mention a peacock in our branding, and the way you mentioned it, I thought was very applicable. So I did want to include it in here. So you do see you've got kind of the playtime color palette where you can do some pops of colors, and then like some neutral tones that are very simplistic yet very beautiful and very complimentary of your brand's personality. So any comments or questions on your brand colors?
No, we actually already started playing with these, and which is because I got this branding report on Friday, I think, and that was during our half off entire store sale, or maybe Thursday, and I was like, I couldn't, yeah, I didn't really have time to sit down with it, and I'd go back and I'd peek at little pieces here and there, and but even between all that mess, we still had time to play with the colors, and I'm not a logo person, but I worked with a logo, and I took that dress and those flowers off the logo and I played with it, the colors, and I loved them. I love the color combination. It just spoke to me. We thought it was when I kind of did it and I picked from the milk and cream line, and then I picked the sunflower field, kind of like that marigold color right there, and played with it. We it Everybody said that's so warm and inviting, and I did not even tell them that we use those words, or you use those words during our branding analysis, but that was the words that they used to describe the color combination I put together. So I thought that was really cool. And in the playtime, I was kind of thinking, well, I don't know if I'm going to use those colors because they're a little bit brighter than what I might like. But I noticed that for our store signs the next day, we did half off the entire store. Our signs, we used those pink and that blue down there. So we thought, well, that's great because that's fun, vibrant colors for sale signs and posters that would hopefully speak to our customers. So, because I thought, how can we use all of those? But we went with milk and cream and sunflower field for our logo and regular signs and things, and we're going to play with the playtime colors for clearance signs and that kind of thing.
Perfect. Brilliant. 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 So you do definitely have that pop of fun and pop of color in your brand. So that's awesome. And you'll find some more fun ways that you can use those fun, brighter colors. Let's talk about your target audience. So your target audience's emotions. So kind of what's the overall general emotional state of your target audience, and what do they respond to emotionally? So again, very strong friendship connection coming from your customers, not just in your relationship, but they really value that friendship, which is why I think you do see a lot of people coming to your store already, versus going to some of the other stores that we talked about in your area when we talked about the competition part of the interview. So you're already doing that, and I think that this is going to help make you even more aware so you can focus on those things even more. Your target audience, they want to feel like they're part of your inner circle, like they're kind of part of a sorority, and they want to laugh, they want things, they want to come into brands, and they want to come into environments where they feel happy and where someone might make them laugh, which you've already talked about. It's really important for you to do that already. Your target audience really strives to have balance. They're striving to have that emotional, physical, and mental balance in their lives. They are very into authenticity. So your target audience is going to respond well to brands who are very authentic. And again, happiness, like nice, happy, but not over the top motivational speaker. Very fun seeking, friendly, very compassionate towards one another and towards the brands that they're loyal to. And your target audience, like they want to look classic and they want to look down to earth with a hint of trendiness. And good morning, Krista. Thanks for joining us. And they're also attracted to the Southern hospitality. So very family-oriented topics are important to your audience. And they want to be encouraged to go for their dreams or to go for that promotion. So your brand would do really well if it creates kind of like a sorority-like sense of community on social media, and creating a two-way interaction of sharing. So definitely a Facebook group. Your target audience would respond well to a Facebook group, and where with questions and engagement where they can really interact with each other. If your brand hosted sorority fundraisers and shopping sprees and book clubs and wine clubs, even blogger breakfasts, that would do really, really well. Your brand's target audience is drawn to like moderate pricing and companies with straightforward values. So, carrying a lot of Louis Vuitton, it's okay, but as long as you're mainstream, like for this brand and for your target audience, they are very much more attracted to exactly the moderate pricing that you have created. And your target audience, they're not fooled by everything they hear. So they actually look for brands that will walk the talk. So be sure your brand promotes its good deeds and its community service. Your brand is going to want to use things like video stories. You're going to want to check out some Facebook TV, some Instagram TV, excellent outlets to tell your story so that your audience can see it's like your brand authentication. So do you have any questions about target audience?
Now, one thing that I had wondered, and now that I read this again, it says target audience's emotions. And I think I missed that the first time. I was just like, oh, target audience, and started reading. But I just jumped right in. And how important is it, and this may not be the right time to ask, but like, I use this to like go after the emotions of my target audience. Does age and like have anything to do with that? Or I'm just thinking like whether they're 22 and whether they're 45, as long as they have those same kind of emotions inside, I'm trying to reach that, no matter like the age demographic.
Yeah, so this is really more about the emotions and not so much the demographic. And where you'll go and get your demographic information is if you go and look at your Instagram insights and your Facebook insights, and you take a look at your demographics there, and that's where you'll get your audience, your age groups for your target audience. But if you really stay focused and appealing on this is more about the emotional state of your target audience. So yes, absolutely, what you just said. So the demographics are different. This is your emotional level of your customers. But if you go and look at your audiences, and most businesses kind of end up having a couple different audiences like that are different age groups. So they might have an age group that's a little bit younger, and then an age group that's a little, I'm not saying older because that would be the age group that I fall into, and that is not what I'm trying to say. But they fall into a different age bracket. And it's really interesting because you kind of have to figure out your marketing to both. But now you're marketing like to the different age groups. But if you stay, again, this is how these age groups are going to respond to your brand. So the target audience is not, what we do here in the branding is not about those age demographics. It's more about the emotional tie that you can have with your audience. Did that answer your question?
It does. Yes, I think so. And so like and you'll get to that in a moment. You had some pictures that were like good for Instagram and stuff. But so if I have two main target audiences, like one falls, I want to market towards like some 35-year-olds, but then my second group is like 22. When I go to fun seeking, do I risk losing some of that branding if I, for what's fun seeking for someone that's, in their 40s maybe, might be a picture of like drinking wine with their girlfriends, over a book or book club. I have a book club actually tomorrow. I haven't finished my book yet, but sorry, I just popped in my head. I thought, but for my 20-year-olds, it might be, an outdoor concert. So if I like market to both those, like I'm trying to find a fun-seeking photo to market to both of those, am I losing the branding? Is that too different?
So what you're going to want to do is a great example of this is like Geico, and Geico has different commercials And some of them you might watch and go, oh, that's a really funny Geico commercial. Like, I really like the little Geico gecko. Like, that's my favorite. I love him. And I bet if I went through and looked at their demographics, I'm probably the demographic that appeals to the Geico gecko. If you look at some of their other ads, and I watch their other ads, and I'm like, that is really stupid. Oh my God, they paid millions of dollars in airtime. But that's because I'm not that ad's target audience. So when you're doing your marketing, it's really important to play into that particular audience that you're marketing to at that moment. But the thing about it is you will have, like, on your Facebook feed and on your Instagram feed and on your Pinterest, Pinterest is easier because you can create different boards that are, definitely segmented to different age demographics. But you're still going to want to keep within the emotional tie-in with, regardless of the demographic, because we're talking about a brand perspective here. So a brand is like a personality. It's like a person, and not all personalities are going to appeal to everybody. So it's still important that you're speaking from your brand personality, but yes, you can go and talk about a concert to your younger age group and then talk about wine drinking or book club to your other age group, and that will all mesh in to your Facebook and your Instagram feed. Does that answer your question?
I think so, yeah. I just, I feel like I got this. I want to stay true to my brand now, which I feel like I had gotten so off track. So I just want to make sure that if I target different age groups, but as long as I'm using the same type of emotion, it may not speak to that other age group, but it still will tie into my brand.
It's still tying to your brand. So you're going to
Okay.
just make sure that you're keeping within your brand regardless of what age group you're marketing to. And I do think that that's a tricky question. And I do know that a lot of marketing, typically in marketing, you want to hone in and market to your primary target market, and that's it. And if your target market is 35 to 50, like, that's it. You're zoned in on 35 to 50-year-olds. And if you do a really good job of that, you're going to, like, catch the peripheral. So good morning, Dawn. Good morning, Dennis. Thanks for joining. So you are going to get in some of those peripheral age groups and age demographics, but with resale and the resale, I think you have to tweak that a little bit, and you have to really be cognizant of what you said, of that younger demographic, because those millennials and that younger demographic, they're really going to be driving resale forward. I mean, there's so many reasons. There's so many economic factors. There's, the tariff thing in China. There's so many different reasons. The saving the planet. So you have to target market to that younger audience as well as target market your existing clientele. So you do almost have to do two separate campaigns, but your overall messaging and emotions and then the photographs and the font style and everything is still going to be the same. So that doesn't change. Like, your brand, who it is, doesn't change. Just maybe the images are going to change in terms of, book club versus concert. Does that
Okay.
help?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I got it.
Awesome. Okay, so other brands like yours. So what are other brands who have the same branding as you do? You can actually follow these brands for ideas on messaging and emotional connection, verbiage, and then types of graphics and videos. So Qantas Airlines, they're out of Australia. They have very customer-centric ads. Coca-Cola, and particularly the Coca-Cola campaign, Have a Coke and a Smile, that is definitely pertaining to your ad. And the reason why I spotlight some of these campaigns is, like we talked about with Geico, these are very large companies and they have a lot of different advertising campaigns running. So I've spotlighted the ones that are basically on your brand voice. Dove, their Inner Beauty, Every Woman is Beautiful. FedEx, they have this great, very family-centered ad. A little boy leaves a teddy bear in a hotel room, and then this really spotlights FedEx doing the right thing and getting the bear and getting it back to the little boy, and all is well. But it's just a really cute campaign and really touches, like, the family and doing the right thing. Amazon, their Happy Box campaign, totally your brand. Drew Barrymore. So just follow her. She's very much the girl next door, the all-American look, kind of the Gap over Gucci kind of look. Matt Damon, as well as a brand. He's very relatable. Again, that word, relatable, down home, humble, not flashy. Spanx, again, very woman owned, solves a problem, very empowering. And Spanx is it's a very simple brand. Like they're actually not super flashy and over the top luxurious. So that's a great brand to follow. Blake Shelton, he's really humble. He's very small town and he has mainstream appeal. Julia Roberts, again, very relatable, all American, family oriented as an actress, incredibly versatile. And then Ellen DeGeneres, basically for Ellen, you want to tie into her equality, and she has a great campaign about just be kind to others. So that's definitely, you guys, she's got a brand of apparel that has just really nice, simple messages about kindness and being friendly. Taylor Swift. So Taylor has a very innocence to her and very humbleness, which has actually led to her success. And that's kind of like the whole bumblebee thing that we talked about, and very much you. I mean, 1 week working in a consignment store, and then your friend is like, hey, do you want to buy the store? And you're like, okay. So, it's kind of that innocence and that humbleness that has really driven you on to. And Anne Hathaway, again, very versatile as an actress, and she's got a very lightheartedness to her. So, any questions or comments about these brands or celebrities?
No, well, I shared this with the girls and they all loved, they thought Drew Barrymore really, really hit it. So now we're just like, what do we do? What would Drew do is what we're saying around here.
Okay, cool. So we have, so you have your branding report. These are just examples of images and posts that would work for you. For your brand, as an example, again, very simple. You just have, pumpkins and some shoes in the image. Work hard and be nice to people, and this is just, again, undertones, very muted, nothing over the top. Nice expression on this girl. Again, she's very pretty, but she's not like super glamorous. How you make others feel about themselves says a lot about you. So this is just really good brand messaging to use. Good morning, Bailey. How are you? So again, we see, images of very all-American girls, staying humble and surround yourself with the things you love, discard the rest, learn to do common things uncommonly well. So we have little bits of fun and just nice, friendly messages. So these I got all off of Pinterest. So you can actually go and find them on Pinterest, but you can even create your own like sayings and things to kind of have these same kind of messages. And this is fun. This would be a great example of marketing to your younger market. Here we've got do not enter, and yet, a girlfriend helping a girlfriend, like, let's go in there. These girls are laughing. So just fun, appealing. This is also like a hint of fun. It has your colors in it. So again, it's really simple. It's not like a really highly complicated photo. It's just very simple. And so yeah, this is just a nice, great, fun photo, nice smiles on them. So let's talk about, so now you have your brand analysis and 7 ways to use your brand analysis. So number 1 is to treat your brand like a real person and creating a persona of your brand and hang it on the wall. So you would list your brand's personality, your values, your behaviors, your voice, and your style. And that way, when you're creating marketing materials and marketing messages, you can kind of go and make sure that everything is in line with their brand. So this is like your brand. So you're going to create this persona of your brand. And one of the things that when Shelly and I first chatted, she was really thinking she wanted to completely rename her business. And I said that would come out in the branding, because we are actually working with somebody right now who went through the branding, and it was very evident based on their branding analysis that brand actually did need to do a rename. Like, definitely that brand is going through the process now of renaming. And it became apparent that that prior attire doesn't really have to rebrand. So, I mean, doesn't have to change the name. So, if she wants to, she can, but realistically, just going with a whole new logo will be fine. But the name is actually completely appropriate for the branding results. So you would, create a persona and you could put, prior attire up there. You could even give it a name if you want to come up with a name to kind of, make that, give that more of like an identity for you. And then you want to create another persona for your target audience. And because you have two different demographics, it's totally okay to create two different personas. So maybe you do have a persona that is that fun, mature, the mature target audience age group, and then you have the target audience that is the younger crowd. So your target audiences will have, you can give them a name if you'd like to, again, name them, and you can include some of their age demographics, their likes and interests. And again, you can get all of that through going through your Facebook and your Instagram pages to see that's where all that great insight information will come from. But the great thing about when you create your personas is that when you also list out the characteristics of your target audience, which are going to be the same, they're just your demographics are going to be different, but the audience emotions are going to be the same. When you're creating store policies and marketing materials and even staff procedures, you can go and match them up directly and go, okay, let's call the younger persona Samantha. How would Samantha react to this? Like, does this fit in with Samantha? And then let's call the other demographic, let's call that Sherry, and how is Sherry going to react to that? So that's a really great thing, is to create those personas, and then it kind of takes the guesswork out of it. And especially if have a lot of people working on marketing and doing things, you can kind of just go match that up really quickly. Look at the national brands who have the same branding as you. Watch their messaging, their headlines, their videos. Follow them on social media just to see, mimic some of what they're doing and get inspiration and ideas for them. I always like to say pick your favorite fonts and use them consistently. If you use Canva, you can actually save your favorite fonts up top. You can create your own branding template, and your favorite fonts are always right up top at Canva. So no matter who in your store is going to go create something on Canva for you, your template's right there. Your colors are all saved right there in your branding template. And it's good to create like your favorite fonts to have them as well for Microsoft Pages. Microsoft is not Pages. Apple Pages, and then also Microsoft Word, so that whatever kind of computer somebody's working on, they know like, oh, these are the go-to fonts that we should use. Create a mission statement that's consistent with your brand's core values and share that on your social media platforms, share it in your store, create taglines and mantras using your mission statement. And remember to post these all over your employee break rooms and bathrooms and intake areas, so that it just reinforces how everybody reinforces what your brand is all about. And then walk through your store. Is it reflective of your brand's personality? Is your brand style consistent with the store's atmospheres, your fixture, your lighting, your signage? You talked about sales signage, and you're like, wow, we actually are using some of those bright brand colors. And then you actually mentioned that you thought about putting in a break bar, putting in maybe a little coffee station, water. So definitely on point with your branding. And then just look over the example images, look at the photography styles, the people, the fonts, the messaging. And it's not going to be perfect all the time. You're like, a super busy business owner, but at least it gives you an idea of staying on point and staying on brand. So any questions? Like, share your aha moments, your thoughts for going through this whole process.
I had several aha moments. I'm still trying to gather them, but I realized I had felt lost and a little bit like I had fallen out of love with the brand. And so I don't remember what lines it was exactly, but when I would do that little sneak peek over the weekend of it, there was a couple times I literally got tears in my eyes. I was like, okay, it's like she gets me. She really, really gets me. Or somebody gets my store. Like this is us, you know. Um, I thought the coffee bar was a great idea. I thought that was something we weren't really looking to add, but I think we're going to do it. So we've already penciled it in because we've got moving some stuff around. I've always wanted to create a persona of our store. I knew to do that through other marketing classes, but I didn't know who she was. I didn't know who Prior Attire was. We even did this big thing in January where I had brought my managers and a couple of our key employees, and we sat here for 8 hours and we just like brainstormed. And I still have stuff taped on my wall here where we wrote who we were, what we do, and stuff, but I did not know how to put it together. And, you know, it was like all these random thoughts. So I just really feel like it gave me another gumption to get going again because now I feel like I have direction, I have a sense of purpose, and now I can take this and make decisions based on it. Like very, very many missing puzzles. The charity, we used to do note cards years ago, and we don't do those anymore just because I've gotten busy. But I think that's who we were, and we just like life. You get busy and you let things slide. So we're already going to add those back in. Sorry,
Awesome,
Kelly.
awesome, awesome. And I just thought of an idea. When you're creating your personas, go through, like, I would recommend using Instagram for the younger demographic and go through your Instagram account and try to find some of your top tier people, to try to find some of those girls that have a lot of followers. They're really active on Instagram, and troll through their Instagram accounts. Maybe even name your persona after one of them, and then troll through their accounts and see what they're doing. Like, what are they doing? What are they into? What are they posting? And you can grab your ideas from that to kind of round out your persona, and then do the same thing for the mature, the mature demographic, and troll through your Facebook page. Look for some of your top people. You can find that in your insights, and go check out their pages and like what are they posting and what are they all about and what are they doing for fun and stuff, and then kind of like include that in your persona. I just that might be really helpful to you as well, giving you a more rounded persona. So awesome.
Yeah. You had asked me in the text you sent this morning if I was surprised by the outcome, and that was a yes. It was a yes and a no. It's like I was totally surprised to see it all put together and see a couple of those missing pieces. I'm like, oh, you know, okay, yeah, that's right. We are that way. We're just not presenting ourselves that way, or we're not, you know, trying to do that on a regular basis. But not surprised in a way to where it was like, yeah, that's us. Like everything was correct, you know. But I guess through 2.5 hours of questions and your background, you're going to come up with that. But yeah, you had went through everything to where we weren't surprised because when we read it, we felt like this is us. But we were surprised to see it put in a organized, thoughtful manner to where now I can break it down and say, this is our voice, this is our style, because I couldn't do that myself. I couldn't get it on paper and say, you know, what can I do with this, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally know what you mean. I've tried to do my own branding for my own company, and it's really hard because you really need that other person there to ask the questions and to, you know, pull it out of you. So thankfully I have some friends in branding that have been able to help me. But yeah, I think you do need that other person to help pull it out of you and know what they're looking for. So awesome. Well, I'm glad it was a great experience, and it was an honor and a pleasure to, you know, be involved with your business on this level. So I really enjoyed it. So any final advice, Shelly, if someone's thinking about branding or how it could help their business? Any final advice to anybody?
I would definitely do it. It was definitely worth it for me. And stuff, especially with as much as we've got going on, as much changes there are out there, as much staffing struggles we all I know have, and training struggles. Like I just, this is going to make it so much easier. So definitely that. When you do the branding, don't overthink, because like I said, she asks so many questions to when you answer not the brightest answer in the book. I feel like sometimes I'm like, what did I say? She's gonna keep asking circles around, and she told me that when at the Norwich conference when I met you, she was like, "Don't worry, if I'm not getting out of you what I feel like I'm supposed to be getting, I will keep asking the questions in different ways to pull out what I need to hear from you to make a decision." And so she knows what she's doing. So don't try to overthink every, I think, question. I mean, you may tell them different, but I felt like you probably got truer answers out of me when you started asking me so many questions. That whole "I believe" thing went so fast, and I was like, I don't even know what I said half the time. And then I was like, it wasn't even professional. I didn't talk about "I believe" like this is how I run a business, or I believe this policy. I was like, I believe in a label maker, and I believe in returning the cart to the grocery store. Like, I thought, what in the world was I talking about, you know? But evidently it worked because I'm very pleased with the report.
Awesome. Yes. If you overthink the answers and if you have time to like weigh in on the answers, then you don't really, it kind of dilutes the whole process of, you want the candidness, the off the cuff things. So awesome. Well, Shelly, again, it's been a pleasure. And Shelly is going to get a new, she's going to work with a graphic designer, a friend of mine. She's going to get a new logo, right? She's going to do a new logo, but you're going to keep the name. You've decided to keep the name. Is that correct?
I think so. I mean, after 20 years of branding and in a small area and stuff, I think that's a lot. So I think with this new branding and keeping my stores on tact and our Instagram feed and the new logo, I think that's going to give me what I need.
Awesome. Shelly, thank you so much. It was a long call this morning, long show this morning, but thank you all. And Shelly, thanks for letting us, dive deep into your business here and be so open and sharing this. It's intimate and personal, so we really appreciate that. And I hope everybody watching, listening, will glean some information. If you have any questions, definitely type them up and we'll be happy to answer them in the comment section. So Shelly, have an awesome rest of the day, rest of the week. And yes, Krista Yates is saying it's a super cute name. So yes, Prior Tire is really cute. So awesome.
You.
All right. Have a great day and a great week, everybody. And we'll see you next week with another super awesome guest.
Thank you.